Top 10 Unbelievable Coincidences That Really Happened. Real-life coincidences that will leave you questioning reality. Life is full of strange twists and turns, but every now and then, the universe presents us with coincidences that are so bizarre, they leave us questioning the fabric of reality itself. Whether you believe in fate, destiny, or pure chance, these real-life coincidences are bound to make you wonder if there's more to life than meets the eye. Here's a countdown of the top 10 unbelievable coincidences that really happened. 10. The mystery of the identical twins separated at birth. In the 1940s, two identical twins, James Lewis and James Springer, were separated at birth and adopted by different families in Ohio. Neither family knew of the other, and both boys grew up without knowledge of their twin. However, what followed was a series of uncanny parallels that went beyond mere genetics. Both were named James by their adoptive parents, and both grew up having a dog named Toy. Each married women named Linda, divorced, and then married women named Betty. Both had sons, one named James Allan and the other James Allan. To top it off, both worked in law enforcement and enjoyed woodworking. When the brothers finally met at age 39, they discovered these bizarre coincidences and more, leaving researchers puzzled and raising questions about nature versus nurture, and whether some things in life are just predestined. 9. The double sinking of the Titanic and the Titan. One of the most famous coincidences in history involves the real-life sinking of the Titanic in 1912 and a fictional ship named the Titan from a novel published in 1898. In Morgan Robertson's novel Futility, or The Wreck of the Titan is described as an unsinkable ship, the largest and most luxurious ocean liner ever built. Like the Titanic, the Titan strikes an iceberg on its maiden voyage, and due to a lack of lifeboats, many of its passengers perish. Though the Titanic sank 14 years after the novel's publication, the eerie similarities between the fictional and real tragedies such as the ship's names, the size of the vessels, the nature of the disaster, and even the month of the sinking, both in April, have led some to wonder if Robertson had an uncanny premonition. 8. The tragic coincidence of the Hoover Dam. The Hoover Dam is one of the most iconic structures in the United States, but it also holds a peculiar and tragic coincidence involving its construction. The first fatality associated with the dam occurred on December 20, 1922, when a surveyor named George Tierney drowned while working on the project. Years later, on the very same date, December 20, 1935, the last fatality linked to the dam's construction occurred. The victim, Patrick Tierney, George Tierney's son, both father and son lost their lives in connection with the same dam on the exact same date, 13 years apart. 7. The coincidence of Anthony Hopkins and the rare book. In the 1970s, renowned actor Anthony Hopkins was cast to star in the film adaptation of The Girl from Petrovka, a novel by George Pfeiffer. Eager to read the book, Hopkins searched for a copy in London bookstores, but had no luck finding it. Later that day, while sitting at a train station, Hopkins noticed an abandoned book on a bench. To his surprise, it was The Girl from Petrovka. As strange as that was, the coincidence didn't end there. When Hopkins met Pfeiffer a few years later, Pfeiffer lamented that he had lent his personal copy of the book to a friend, who had then lost it. Hopkins pulled out the book he had found and, lo and behold, it was Pfeiffer's own copy, complete with his personal annotations. 6. The Lincoln-Kennedy connection. Perhaps one of the most well-known coincidences in American history is the striking number of similarities between the lives and deaths of Presidents Abraham Lincoln and John F. Kennedy. Though separated by nearly a century, the two share a bizarre series of parallels. Both were elected to Congress in a year ending in 1846 and 1946, and became president in a year ending in 1860 and 1960. Both were deeply concerned with civil rights. Both were assassinated on a Friday, in the presence of their wives. Lincoln was shot in Ford's Theater, while Kennedy was shot in a Lincoln car made by Ford. Both assassins, John Wilkes Booth and Lee Harvey Oswald, were born in a year ending in 39 and were known by 3 names with 15 letters total. Booth fled a theater and was caught in a warehouse, while Oswald fled a warehouse and was caught in a theater. Lincoln's successor was Andrew Johnson, born in 1808, and Kennedy's successor was Lyndon B. Johnson, born in 1908. Though these connections seem beyond mere chance, they are nonetheless real, leaving historians and conspiracy theorists alike baffled. 5. The curious case of the brothers' taxi fate. In 1975, in Bermuda, An unfortunate accident occurred involving a man on a moped. He was struck by a taxi and died. A year later, the man's brother was riding the same moped in the same area when, eerily, he was struck and killed by the same taxi, driven by the same driver, carrying the same passenger. This double tragedy leaves us to wonder whether fate had a hand in this bizarre and tragic occurrence. 4. The book that saved a soldier's life. During World War I, British soldier Private Henry Tandy found himself in the heat of battle. At one point, Tandy was about to shoot a wounded German soldier but, seeing the soldier's helpless state, decided to spare his life. That soldier would go on to become Adolf Hitler, who later rose to power and led Germany during World War II. The coincidence, however, doesn't end there. Years later, during World War II, Tandy's regiment was posted to a small French town. Tandy found refuge in a church, where a portrait of him was hanging. Hitler reportedly came across this very portrait during his own military campaign and recognized Tandy as the man who spared his life years before. This bizarre sequence of events raises questions about how small decisions can have huge impacts on history. 3. The Violet Jessop Unsinkable Coincidence. Violet Jessop, a nurse and ocean liner stewardess, holds the remarkable and somewhat eerie distinction of surviving not one, not two, but 3 ship disasters involving the White Star Line. She was aboard the RMS Olympic when it collided with the HMS Hawke in 1911, narrowly escaping. The following year, she was aboard the RMS Titanic during its infamous sinking and managed to survive by boarding a lifeboat. If those 2 experiences weren't enough, she was also aboard the HMHS Britannic, the Titanic's sister ship, when it struck a mine and sank during World War I in 1916. She again survived, despite nearly being sucked under the ship's propellers. Jessop's miraculous survival in these disasters has led some to call her Miss Unsinkable. 2. The death of King Umberto. One of the strangest royal coincidences involves King Umberto I of Italy. On July 28, 1900, the king was dining at a restaurant in Monceau when the restaurant owner approached him. The 2 men were shocked to discover that they looked almost identical and shared the same first name. But the coincidences didn't stop there. Both men were born on the same day in the same town, both had married women named Margarita, and both had opened their respective businesses, the king's ascension to the throne and the owner's restaurant, on the same day. The next day, July 29th, the restaurant owner was killed in a mysterious accident. Shortly after hearing the news, King Umberto I was assassinated by an anarchist. The chilling series of events has since left many wondering if their fates were intertwined in a way that defies rational explanation. 1. The Edgar Allan Poe prophecy. At the top of our list is a mind-boggling coincidence that suggests famed writer Edgar Allan Poe might have had more than just a vivid imagination. In 1838, Poe published a novel called The Narrative of Arthur Gordon Pym of Nantucket, in which 4 shipwreck survivors are stranded on a lifeboat and, in a desperate bid to survive, resort to cannibalism. In the novel, the victim is a young cabin boy named Richard Parker. 46 years later, in 1884, a yacht called the Mignonette sank, and its 4 survivors faced the same dire circumstances. They, too, turned to cannibalism to survive. The name of the unfortunate victim, Richard Parker. The eerie similarity between Poe's fictional story and the real-life events that followed decades later continues to spark debates about whether this was pure coincidence, or if Poe somehow predicted the future. Coincidences often leave us questioning the mysterious ways in which life unfolds. From historical figures sharing intertwined fates to near-impossible chances that seem too perfect to be random, these stories remind us that sometimes, reality can be stranger than fiction. Whether these events are driven by fate, destiny, or the universe's sense of humor, one thing is certain: they make us wonder just how much control we truly have over our lives.
If you love diving into today's video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and join our growing community. Stay in the loop with our weekly uploads full of fascinating facts and mind-blowing trivia. Like, share, and spread the knowledge with your friends. Let's explore the world together.